Welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana, coming out of New York City.
I'm Nicky Holloway. Thanks for inviting me on the show.
Yep, hang on. I'm going to bring you up in a second. Hang on. So each and every week, as you know, I search the globe, especially to find people that don't speak often and we don't hear about, but we revere them as very important sentiments to what we all do. I'm going to bring them up right now. This is
Hello.
Holloway, everybody. Nicky, thank you for coming on. We had to search high and low to find Nicky Holloway, but thankfully, thank God, he is doing very well. He is safe and sound, tucked in the United Kingdom.
And in the rain.
Huge.
I must just warn the viewers. I do come with a bit of a sort of warning, an over 18 sticker, because I do tend to swear a lot. And I'm sorry, I don't realise I'm doing it, but it just comes out. So if you're easily offended with swear words, then probably look away.
So anyway, Nicky has, you want to talk about a discography of promotion, nightclubs, DJ himself, and help launch careers. This is your man, okay? I'm going to stop there and I'm going to make it real simple. Nicky, how are you doing? First of all,
I'm all right. No, I've had recently, I don't know if people know, but I had prostate cancer a few years ago, and I had the treatment, and it seems ever since I went to Prague and had the proton beam thing, it seems to be really well. It's right down where it should be. So it's I think it's worked, but you don't ever want to get too sort of it's always in the back of your head and worry. But I feel fine at the moment, and if he's good on that end.
Good. And as well, how's life been treating you with this whole COVID thing? Before we get
so I had a kind of the sort of 2 years before the lockdown. In 1 year, my mum had a stroke, I had cancer, my best friend died, and my dad, who I only just really got to know after 30 years, died. All in 1 year. And it was like, I actually feel bulletproof now. It's almost like I wonder when it bankrupt. So it was a bit like, in 1 year, everything happened, and it felt like this year was going to be my year, because I had some nice bookings in again. I was ready to start going out again, ready to see people again, all excited, a load of things booked up in Ibiza and loads of stuff going on. And then this happened. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this was supposed to be I've been in lockdown for about 3 years. So it hasn't actually seemed so different to me, because I'm looking after a 90-year-old mum who's in the room next door. I kind of don't get a chance to go out unless I get a babysitter, basically, or someone to look after her. And so I really was planning to have a really good old party here this year, and it just zoom. But it'll come back.
So you went from 100 to 0 with the
So especially after having sort of 2 or 3 years of not going out anyway, I was ready to. I was really looking forward to it. Still, it's no one could have seen that coming. I mean, I don't think anyone in the world could have predicted.
I did.
Yeah.
But the old president that was in the office kept yelling and saying it was a hoax. I says, Christ, this is going to go really bad in another minute.
Yeah, I thought that as well. I
just didn't think it was ever going to get to pandemic. I knew it was epidemic status. We were talking about it in 2019, December. I was in Jamaica. I was talking to the Europeans that brought me over, the Italians. And I did a big New Year's Eve party, and they were asking me, had you heard about what was going on in Italy? And I said, yeah. They said this thing is floating around and people are passing away. And it's like, we knew about it. And if we knew about it.
As soon as we saw the chart, what was going on in Wuhan, I knew it was going to end up everywhere. It
was inevitable.
Yeah. But I mean, things are looking better in England now than they were a few months ago. Most people are getting vaccinated. The dates are starting to be put back in the diary. Pubs are open again. People are wandering, out and about a bit more. Hopefully, touch wood, we're in a much better position than probably the rest of Europe is at the moment.
Well, Karen, wherever she is right now, Miss Karen Scarwell, who handles this wonderful thing. What thing gets more inquiries? Everyone asking, when's Lenny coming to the UK? let me clarify it real fast. When the borders open, because I can fly into London's Heathrow Airport.
You'd have to stay in a hotel for 10 days or something.
Right, I'll be doing that full U-turn back out to go back on the plane coming home.
Yeah, it'll keep. It'll keep.
Yeah, I know.
So, years these days for me, years seem to just fly by nowadays. I can't believe that was a whole year. It just went like that. And, the only exciting thing happened to me last year was getting one of these chairs. The Herman Miller chairs. That was the highlight of my year.
Yeah,
I've always wanted one of these. You're in one now. And they're expensive, aren't they? They're big bucks. And a friend of mine, I put a thing on Facebook, and a good friend of mine, Ian Ellis, said, I've got a spare one, So I was like, right, because I'm using it 8 hours a day to sit down doing the music or whatever. And it's like, I just, every time I went in the studio, everyone always had these chairs, didn't they? They were like the bog standard everyone had. And I've always wanted one. And then I looked at the price of it and I thought, £1,000 for a chair? Are you kidding me?
Well, there's a way around that. I actually helped somebody else in the UK, was to go to the secondhand office. Yeah,
but even there, £500-600 secondhand.
But it's better than 1,000.
Yeah. But but to be honest with you, I can feel the difference though, My arse is like happy, whereas it was aching from the other chairs.
0800, my ass is on fire.
Yeah. No, you know what I mean? It was like I was really noticing it after 6 hours in these other cheap chairs. And I feel the difference. But anyway, that's it. That was the highlight of my year, getting a chair.
Nicky's highlight. Nicky, let's get right to the first question because you got a lot to tell us, brother. And I know, here we go. How does music find a young Nicky, a kid?
My mum told me this story as well, and I kind of checked it out. And it's like, when my mum was pregnant with me, and when I was born, she was living with my dad on a houseboat on a place called Eel Pie Island, which had a venue on it right next to where the boat was. And the Rolling Stones played there, David Bowie, Pink Floyd, they were all playing there around the time I was born. And she was stuck on the boat while my dad was actually in the venues hearing the music, but she could hear the music on the boat. So there's a good chance that I would have been, as I was being conceived and born, listening to one of those big rock bands that played there. Yeah, it's not there now, but it's most people in the music business that know the history over here. It was a big famous venue, a hotel venue on Eel Pie Island. It's really not in the middle of the Thames. Then I think I started getting into music when I was at school, early at school. When we used to the little record shops, and when the new charts come out, you go and get the list of all the singles there were, and go down the list. And half the time they didn't have the ones you wanted, and you had to go to the next one you liked. And they had those little booths that you could go in to listen to. There was all 7-inch singles. I've still got a lot of them. But to get the money for them, we used to do things like Penny for the Guy, or go and helping out. And there was one called Bobber Job, which was like the Cub Scouts knocking on people's doors. Like little boys in short trousers knocking on strangers' doors. I don't think that's going to work now somehow. But they used to go knocking on anyone's door, and they put a sticker in the window if they did it, just to get money. And Penny for the Guy was the other one, where you'd dress up something, stuff it with some old clothes and some hay, and make it look like a dummy of a Guy Fawkes, and then stand outside the market and get money for there. And I used to say, as soon as I got my money, I would be straight down the record shop buying singles, And we were living in a house with a stepbrother and sister as well, in where I'm now, Barnet. And it was every room in the house had a different set of music playing. Like the mum and dad were into country and western, like Jim Reeves and all that. So that was going on in one room. The other room had Motown and James Brown going on. And then the brother had like all reggae and ska and all that, stuff, for Trojan stuff going on. And then we had our sort of kids' pop music, Slade and all that. So there's like 5 rooms of music going on, all totally different. So I kind of I think that's where I got a bit of a wide knowledge of it,
Sounds like a smorgasbord of different sounds going.
Yeah. But I still remember the tracks to this day. Some of them, it's like, they stick with you.
Moving on from there. So wow. So
I started working in City Sounds as well for a little while.
There we go. So from Cub Scouts to City Sounds.
Yeah, well, no, there was the school in between that bit, which I didn't really like. I was fishing mad. I used to go fishing every day instead of bunking off school. But I do remember, like, getting, like, you know, I know Carl the other week was talking about those catalogues. Your mum's always had the catalogues to buy things out of. And I knew exactly the thing he was talking about, because he used to look at it in the back of it and think, one day I'm going to get one of them. And we had, I would bunk off school. Mum would go to work. I would creep back in, and I'd get her hi-fi. She had, like, you know, a music centre thing, you know, with like cassette in it, and so I'd get hers and mine put next to each other, and then stick a mic on a stand, like on a broomstick handle or something, and then record it onto this little reel-to-reel I had, and practice my DJ. It was mad. I didn't have no money for our equipment and stuff. And then that was probably about 15, 16. And then as I sort of got old enough to go out to clubs, you know, and I started going to a place called the Royalty, and I used to stand up there. It was in Southgate, and I saw everybody there. Fadden Whitehead, Nita Ward, Sugar Hill Gang, Marvin Gaye. They all played at this club. It was every Friday and Saturday night.
Where exactly was this club? Exactly.
The Royalty, it's called.
Where was it? In
Southgate.
Southgate. Okay.
It was the main DJs was a guy called Froggy. You know, Froggy had been over to New York and listened to Paradise Garage and took all that in, and he was the first one to sort of really start doing the beat mixing stuff over here. And I just remember I'd be up there every week, you know, and I probably weren't old enough to be in there. And I stood on the end of the deck. I was the original, like, train spotter. I stood on the end of the deck just watching him nearly all night, you know, and what he was doing, you know. So they set up a good Facebook page for that, actually, and it's got all the tunes that were big there. Yeah, it's Royalty Southgate. It's a good page. You just don't forget the music, and it's. I think most people in house that are a bit older did come from a soul and funk and jazz background, a disco background. They came from, you know, primarily a black music background. You know, I think it was definitely where it was at before. You know, disco is house, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, as Frankie Knuckles said, disco house is disco's revenge.
Yeah,
he always said that, and he was right. It just never, for me, it never felt like it ended.
No.
So you go from there, of course, and you find your way, and everybody's, you know.
As it's no, so there. I started doing this audition for some DJ agency that used to sort of. They wanted to see what you was like on the mic, so you just had to play that. They wanted to hear your links, basically, because you had to use a mic, you know, introducing the records and all that. And I got knocked back from it the first 2 times, and then the third time I went for the audition, I got offered a couple of gigs. You know, they weren't like, they were sort of pub disco gigs around the Old Kent Road area. You know, I think it used to get about like £8 or £15 a night. But at the time, it was all right. You know, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't terrible. But I think, you know, that few years I was doing all those pub discos, you kind of learn a lot. You learn how to spot the fights before they start. You learn how to see who's going to be trouble and who isn't in the club. And, you know, it's and, you know, reading a room as well, because you'd be playing the whole night as well. That's the main thing. You know, that's my favourite thing. I like doing the whole night from start to finish if I can. But these days, you don't really get that chance to do that, because
30 minutes. Forget about doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so ridiculous, and it's just a pissing contest, isn't it? Everybody's just trying to go one higher than the one before them. There's no highs without the lows, and there's no lows without the highs. And, you know, when you play the whole night, you can kind of, you're warming up for yourself, and you know where it's going, and you know you're going to take it that way, and you know you're going to have a break of it, and you know you're going to, it's like ebbs and flows and light and shade. Whereas when it's just like the same thing all night and everybody's just trying to make a show for the 1 hour that they're on, it's all a bit X Factor, really.
Right. No, you got that right, because that was how a lot of us learned. You open, you close, and beyond.
I still prefer to do that. When I eventually got the clubs open, I used to love doing Fridays and Saturday nights, and I would do all night sometimes, you know, or have one other person as well, you know, because having a good warm up DJ is really important, because, you know, so you have these people warm up and they're trying to play a main time slot in a warm up, and it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? You want someone that's going to do anything but what you're going to do later.
No, but the thing is, they want to be stars. That's the thing. They're dying to be stars. They don't realize they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, no, the way in would be to be a good warm-up DJ for somebody. You're not playing the things that, the big hitters and that.
Right. You're playing stuff that maybe they don't know, or, a little bit down tempo, or, a little more relaxed. Get to that level, because you wouldn't play a 12 midnight record at 9:30.
No.
So do that.
I hate it sometimes, like going to this club. I mean, they're fresh in the system where there's no one in there, so there's nowhere to take it afterwards. You know what I mean? It's like maxed out in the first hour. But that's just like, when you work with proper people, they know that.
Right.
I mean, I normally spend the first 10 minutes of a set kind of. I normally had a word with the sound guy first and said, "Look, I'm going to turn it down," right? Because they've got it all maxed out to save their equipment anyway. It's all limited and compressed. And it's like, I'm saying, look, I will back it off in the first record. I'll get it down to so it's not in the red. I'm not sending you a crap single. And they're normally quite pleased that that you've even engaged to talk to them about things like that. And I give them a little one of those little laser pen things, because they're normally off to the side. And I say, look, if I'm pushing it, flash that at the mixer, and I'll know that rather than you turn it down, you keep turning it down and me keep turning it up, I'll take it back again on here. Do you know what I mean? And they normally work with, they've got it all maxed out so that you can't blow stuff up, And, but normally the earlier DJs have peaked and thrashed the arse out of it before it's even got to your set, haven't they?
Well, you understand that.
Yeah, that's a bit of experience. The amount of times I've gone to venues over the years, DJing, and I've looked at it and I've realised that even just like the leads are in round the wrong way. So you're getting the phase cancellations and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And you walk out into the middle of the dance floor and it's quieter than it is around the edges. Things like that where it's cancelling each other out and that. I walk in a place and I say that shouldn't be there. That shouldn't be like that. Sometimes they haven't even got it. This is not wired up properly. If there's no one sound man there, it's just the club gear. I guarantee you, some barmaid or the cleaners pulled something out or left something out and done something wrong. So
No, I hear you.
Yeah.
So on your road up to clubbing sensation.
Well, after the sort of royalty era, I was sort of going to all the soul and funk things, and I kind of wanted to I wanted to get in with the big DJs at the time, which was like the Chris Hills and the people who did the Case Weekends and all that. So I started doing this thing on a Monday night in a pub in Bermondsey called the Swan and Sugarloaf. And people were coming from all over. On a Monday night, they were coming from miles, literally on a Monday night. And it turned out to go for a good few years. And after that, there was another place down the road that had a late licence and a dance floor and all that, and that was called the Royal Oak in Tooley Street. It's not there now, it's been knocked down. But they used to be really busy, and then they weren't. And then I started to hire the night, pay them a fee, and then it was my first ever promotion thing, really, And it was that built up, that went on for a good few years. I mean, I had Pete Tong as my resident downstairs and Giles Peterson upstairs.
So basically, is that your first club you promoted?
The first one I promoted, it was a thing called the Special Branch. And we used to do, it kind of grew out of the Royal Oak and Tooley Street, which was like sort of 300 people every Friday night. It was around about the same time as when Carl was talking the other day about Ziggy's in Paul Oakenfold's club in Streatham. We were like 6 or 7 miles away down the road from them on the same night. We were friendly competition with each other on those nights because. Hang
on, for some of the younger audience, what year would that be that you started that?
Oh, it would have been 85, 86.
That club?
Yeah, it would have been around about that time. No, Pete wasn't on Radio 1 at that time. He was still just starting out in the game. He was working at Blues and Soul magazine at the time. Okay. And I remember, it's like when I look back, I found some old stuff, old receipts and things of what it was. It's quite funny to think that he used to pay them £50-60. It wouldn't be like that now. But that was good. They were good times, and we built up a following and started doing bigger things. We started doing these things in London Zoo. called Do It at the Zoo, and it was actually in the zoo. So the first one we done, when you bought a ticket, you had a ticket to go around the zoo first, and then the gig party was on afterwards. But they built up into, 3,000 people. And we did that for a good few years. They were really good, big gigs at the time. We started doing things in all strange places like Chislehurst Caves and Thorpe Park, and we've done one in the Natural History Museum. Round, the Natural History Museum used to have that big Tyrannosaurus Rex thing in the middle, Diplodorus, or whatever it's called. Well, how about this coincidence? We had I can't believe we pulled that one off, because nowadays, if we went to hire it, there'd be all public liability insurance and all these things for safety things, wouldn't there? All these things that you have to do just to do a party in one of these places now that you have to have, risk assessments and all this sort of stuff. We just hired it because and to think that we were climbing in to the big dinosaur thing and putting strobe lights in it and things like that, and people were doing it. But the coincidence thing was, at that time that we did the party, the Was Not Was record was like in number 4 in the charts in England. They Walk the Dinosaur, open the door, get on the floor, everyone. So that was, imagine playing that there, and everyone's round there. So it was they said we could have 600 people in there, and we sold 1,200 tickets because it was bigger than they said. And what we did was we numbered them upside down. So look, there was no ticket with more than number 600 on it. But there was only some little guy on the door that was like this. We had our own security, and the guy's going, "We're looking a bit busy in here." And I said, "No." And he had looked through the tickets, and he couldn't find anyone with more than the number under 600 on it.
Wait, so 600 upside down is 009.
Well, we did it there, and then we did another one upside down, the one to 600 again. That we stamped them that way instead, so we knew how many were. And it wasn't silly packed or anything, but they normally have it as a conferencey place, and we got away with that one. I don't know how we got away with that.
I don't even know how you got the Natural History Museum. That's like crazy.
Yeah. Well, they do rent them out now for corporate parties. Yeah. And we did one at Lord's Cricket. No.
The stuff in Natural History Museum is worth a fortune. How they get them?
We had 1,200 people there.
They agreed to doing this function. I can't believe you even got it.
Yeah. We used to call them doos, so it was like that was the dinosaur do, and then we had the googly do, which was at Lord's Cricket Ground.
Googly.
And we had the caveman boogie thing, which was in Chislehurst Caves, in a cave, miles away. And then we had Do It the Dome. I mean, the do was the kind of brand, the brand, and there wasn't really such a thing as brand in those days. Like now, no one thought of it as brand. We would sort of never really had a marketing plan or we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We were just doing it for fun. And if we happened to get a bit of money on top, that was it. I mean, it was like, on the rule of thumb, it would be like you needed to sell nearly all the things we did, you needed to sell about 2/3 of tickets to break even. To break even. And then sometimes you made money, sometimes you just broke even. And then, but one time, we was doing these things at London Zoo, and there'd been a couple of times before, there'd been these gang of bad boys climbing in and getting in and steaming, running, snatching chains and all that. And people were too scared to do anything. On the last time when they come down right near the end of the night just to do that. And they'd sort of walk through the club just grabbing stuff, And this would have been 86, 87. And what we did, we said, no, we're not having that anymore. So we got all the security together. We bundled them, got them in a room, and we called the police. And because we did that, they next time we went for the license of it, we got refused the license. We've done, I think, about 16 or 17 of these parties once every couple of months. And because we did the right thing by having them nicked, it kind of cost us the gig. But we didn't get the license a day before we'd had the thing sold out. So what are we going to do? We've got no venue. And that's when I rung up the Astoria, who had a band called Slave playing. Slave, Steve Harrington?
Yeah.
They were on, but they hadn't sold. The place sold 2,000, something like that. They'd only sold about 300 or 400 tickets. So I said, I've got a great idea. Why don't we tell everyone that the gig's still on at the zoo, put coaches on and take them there, and so pretend there's been a flood at the zoo. So we did that. We said that there was a flood and we couldn't use it. So everyone still turned up, but nobody wanted their money back. They were quite happy to go somewhere else. So we coached them all down to the Astoria in town. And because of that, that was what got me in the door to do the regular things at Sin and Trip, because I'd done a few parties there before. I'd done 2 or 3 things in the Astoria. The Astoria was going up to a different another level,
Sure.
But it was pure accident. It was purely like, we said, what do we do here? Cancel it, or should we try and move it into another venue? And they had the space, and they were happy to do it. So they got free, and a lot of people knew who Slave were anyway, so they got a free concert. So it was a win-win all round, really. So that's what got me through the door of that. And the timing was sort of just before the sort of house thing kind of started to explode.
So what were you playing musically at that time?
Well, we started playing house. It was because it was like we'd been to New York and we were playing the early stuff, the DJ International track stuff, but it was kind of, we're also playing Beastie Boys and hip hop stuff as well. So it was kind of hip hop, rare groove, and a few house records. Things like we were playing Jack Your Body and all things like that, and Steve Harrington, this one. Who's the bloke? Steve Silk Early, all those sort of things, all those early ones. We were playing them, but like it hadn't really took off. They didn't, they were. We got away with them, but we were all playing we were probably playing slower stuff. There'd been a rare groove vibe, if you like.
What was your safeties to get the crowd crazy at that time? Your safeties that you would have ran to and said.
Well, we had the JVC Force, Strong Island. That was always a big one, and. The Incredible Mr. Freeze, back, I want to go back, that sort of stuff. And Vince Montana, but it was more up to 120 and not really past that at the time,
Gotcha.
And, what I mean? It was more 115, 118, that sort of stuff, BPM.
So off camera, my man mentioned he came over to a new music seminar. I'll let him tell that story too.
Oh yeah, that was it. It was
just around the same time, right?
Another thing about in the early days when I was first starting out, I actually met Paul Oakenfold when I was working as a Saturday boy in a clothes shop in Oxford Street. We both worked there, and he had all his hip hop stuff because he'd been over New York before, and I had all the jazz funk stuff. So we used to argue about who put the cassette on, which one went on, and all that. So I met Paul then. That would have been like 85. But jumping around there, I forgot what I was talking about there.
So you came over to New York.
Oh yes. We went over there, and I think it was 86, and it was at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. It was a new music seminar, like they do with the Miami thing now, the Miami dance thing they do. It used to be in New York, and everybody in the industry would go to New York. And so it was like, oh wow, this is mad, crazy. And we was in this me and Paul were in this really shitty, crappy hotel, noisy, tiny little room, 2 little single beds in it. And the first night Paul got there, when he was working for Champion Records at the time, the first night he got there, he got kind of signed to go and work for Profile in New York. And they bumped him up and put him in a decent hotel. So I had the little one to myself, which was quite fun. Yeah, he kind of, that moved him up the step. He went from sort of a little local label in England to Profile Records in New York, Run DMC and all that sort of stuff. I just thought another record that was big for us was that King Keener, Jungle Fever.
Good record.
Yeah, that one. They did from that one. Well, Profile was a good label, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah.
Yo, you had a record on Profile. You were large back then.
Yeah, that's they were, weren't they? Yeah.
So you came to your music seminar.
Yeah. So we managed to I got to the Paradise Garage a couple of times, but the year that we went, it was all, I'd never taken an E before, and I didn't understand why people were up all night in a place that had no alcohol. It all seemed a bit
strange
to me. I didn't know what it was about. But I do remember one record that was that I came back remembering was that Master Sin J, when you hold me. That was like before it. That was an early one, And I kind of, I did get it. It was Wayne Guthrie's birthday party, and everybody was always wanted to get up in the DJ box with Larry Levan, didn't they? And he used to keep it shut and all that.
Yep.
But I met Timmy Regisford there that year as well, up on the roof. They had a little open roof service up, didn't they? And we went to Shakedown Studios when Wally Jump Jr. was doing that Jump Back record with Arthur Baker and that. We had a wander around there. And that's when I went out to Long Island because someone went and stayed with a friend out there for one night just to see something different. But that's also where I got the name of the Milk Bar from, because I went to a place called the Milk Bar in New York, and there used to be a bar there called the Milk Bar, and another one called Nels that everyone went to. And I went to Area that used to change the deck all the time, remember that? Yeah. And I went to the Saint as well. Remember the Saint? It was like around...
We had Robbie Leslie on this show. Yes, I did.
Yes. I remember because when you were in there, like the dance floor was kind of above you, wasn't it? It was like a round Saint, wasn't it? And so that was good. And Bruce Forrest was, I think, playing, wasn't he? Also?
No, at Saint?
Yeah, I think so.
Robbie Leslie or Sharon White or...
But yeah, now I'll tell you what I do remember from that. If you remember the bar in, made me laugh, the bar in the Marriott Marquis Hotel, it was a revolving bar, right? It went round. But I didn't know that. And it was quite a long way to the toilet. So I kept going whenever I went to the toilet, I'd come back and no one was where they were. Because it moves around so slowly that you don't really realise it's doing. So I'm thinking, why did they move seats? What happens every time I go to the toilet, they're moving seats? Because, it didn't look the same. And like people were now over there that were there.
I'm gonna let you take a break for a second and advertise.
Yeah, I need a quick wee. So
yes. Here we go, everyone.